Hi, welcome everyone. I'm Chris and I'm here with Bomber from the Edge, and we decided to get together and go a little bit further than just what we've read in the Edge, because there are a lot of amazing discussion pieces in there, things that help us to understand what's happening better in our town and with the lives of our people and really in our area. So hey Bomber, how are you doing?
Hey, good.
Oh, fantastic stuff. Yeah, thanks so much for pulling through. Glad that we could do this. Just to kind of get us set up and started, can we chat a little bit about the Age, about a community, what the role of a community newspaper is? Why do we still have this in the days of social media and you know, all of that kind of stuff?
Yeah, the Edge is a community newspaper. We've been going along 25 years and long time. I was quite young when we started. It's our job's always been to sort of report the news that people don't hear about on the national and international media. People are bombarded with news. Whether it be on social media, on your TV running in the background, on the radio, but local news is like really local news, and to others it might seem a little bit twee, a little bit uninteresting. But when you're living in the town, you want to know that Mrs. McGee's giant marrow won third prize.
It did?
She did. She did indeed.
Absolutely.
Third year running. All that. Like we had in our last edition, a 25-year-old record was broken on this
Sports
Day.
That was so cool to see.
People do want to hear local news because it's all about the community.
Definitely,
it's all about where we live and what makes our small town special.
And we love to see the people who we know and the things that actually affect us in day-to-day lives, where I suppose the politics, really, I mean, it's, big, important things. But we also want to know, what's happening with open pieces of land or this business or, whatever floats, all of our events. And it was great hearing about, the Living Cornerstone in the last issue and how they're doing. All these kind of things are absolutely brilliant. One of the really interesting ones that we got to chatting about was the land just north of the fire station, kind of by Cloud9, in front of Cloud9, right? So there's been clearing happening there, and there's been it's been our favorite word for the day, conjecture. A lot of conjecture about exactly what's happening over there. Some people saying, hey, is it being cleared for low-cost housing? That could change a lot about our beloved little town. But you say you might have some cool insights.
Well, it's a crazy story because there is a lot of conjecture, and I can understand why.
Yeah,
they are clearing. As far as I have been made aware, and I think there was recently a couple of releases from the councillors confirming this.
Yeah,
they are basically the people who own large tracts of land. They have to do alien clearing.
Yes,
for fire problems,
wattle
fire
and
risks, that sort of thing, water conservation, and so on and so forth. And as far as I know, what happened on this particular thing was the municipality had told the owners, warned the owners that it needed clearing. And eventually, if an owner doesn't clear the land, the municipality steps in and clears it. And I think they send the owners the bill.
Yes,
which might be a bit scary for the owners.
Yes.
Because there's a lot of land. So that's what's actually happening. But the conjecture has buzzed around Sedgefield for quite some time now. And it's all about a misnomer, a confusing name.
Yes.
There are some low-cost housing projects that are planned for Smutsville.
Have been planned a long time, right?
They've been planned a long time. There's been lots of clashes and riots. Lots of promises made by politicians, and very few of them kept. But anyway, that aside, because that's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah, it is. Hey, jeez. Yeah.
So that aside, they have earmarked land in Smutsville to put up various low-cost housing projects.
Yeah.
Now, going back quite a few years, at one stage they were talking of moving the fire station to Smutsville.
Sure. Yeah.
Which also is another conversation, but it really makes sense because I would say at least 95% of house fires are in Smutsville because of the nature of the buildings.
Absolutely, yeah.
And the close proximity the buildings are with one another.
Yeah.
So fires do spread. We had it in our latest edition. We did, and maybe we'll touch on that later. We reported on a couple of houses, a few houses being lost.
Yes.
So it does make sense to have the fire station closer to Smutsville. At the moment, it's on the other side of town.
Yeah.
I don't know how many speed humps the fire engines have to go over to get to the fires. The nature of the building material, as I mentioned, it does
very
mean
flammable.
It's very flammable, so the places do go up very quickly. So by the time the fire engine gets there, quite often it's just mop-up operations. Or in much worse case scenarios, which we had, I think it was late last year, to stop the fire spreading further. And the fires we had last year, the fire spread, I think it was 28 houses in the end.
Yes, there was that huge one.
Yeah.
I remember that. I remember seeing the big plume of smoke from that as well.
Yeah.
And John, you hear them racing
terrible.
along.
Yeah.
Jeez,
So when the municipality started getting the paperwork together, obviously they had to have a public participation process.
Yes. Yeah.
And from what I gather, I don't have all the paperwork with me now, but from what I gather, there was quite a few objections. I don't know what the objections were, and it boggles my mind. But I do suppose if you live right there and there's a plan for a fire station next to your house, maybe it would be a bit worrying. But anyway, that aside, the land, the idea fell through, but the municipality continued referring to the area of land that they were going to use as the fire station block.
So just in name, really.
In name.
It was designated at one point. But
everyone knew where that was.
Yeah.
It's the fire station block.
Yes.
You know, I'm not sure of the name of the road. I'd have to look that up.
Yeah.
But it's on the area, on the edge, the very edge of Smutsville.
Okay.
There's a piece of land there now earmarked for low-cost housing. And that's where it was called the fire station block. One might say in the corridors of the municipality.
Yeah.
Just to sort of get a bit of get a bit of a thing on it. There's another area of land called the Brickworks plot. Now that was
were we going to put all the bricks in Sedge in that spot? That was it. That was the brick spot.
That was basically, it was called that because quite a few years ago, and I think it's actually before we got here, 25 years ago.
Yeah.
There was going to be a brickworks set up there in Smutsville. And they actually even built a frame of a building or something, and then
ran out of bricks.
Happened with that. Who knows?
Yeah, something along
but
the way.
it's still called the Brickworks.
Yeah. Oh,
so there's another housing project going up in Smutsville on the Brickworks.
Oh,
where
okay.
No bricks have ever been made.
Yes, but that's just what it's called.
Yeah.
Okay.
So going back to the fire station block. So in the paperwork that goes out, people see, oh man, they're building low-cost housing in the fire station block.
Yeah.
Then they see the land behind the actual fire station being cleared.
Yes.
And they put 2 and 2 together and get 25.
Well, they put matching words together.
So it's quite understandable why people would think that.
Yeah.
And look, we do have a desperate need for low-cost housing. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
There hasn't been
safe housing. I mean, that really is one of the big contributors to the fires.
Absolutely.
And to the content. I mean, how many are we having a year?
Yeah.
Just multiple. And you were saying there was this one. I mean, it's on the page 2 or 3 somewhere in the Edge now on some more people losing their homes to a fire.
Yes, yeah. And the tragedy, it's all a tragedy, but what made me kind of sad was there was one formal house burnt. So there was a gentleman from Smutsville who was chatting to me a while back, and in fact he was talking at the ratepayers meeting AGM, but a few years ago. And he coined a term that I hadn't heard before, was shack farming.
Shack farming.
Shack farming.
Yeah.
And he said what happens is people have a small piece of land and they have their house on it. And because there's such a huge shortage of living space there, they'll build a shack on the back of their house. And then on the back of that shack, another shack will be built and another one will be built. And they all provide income. For that home
so they're all like rented out.
So they're all rented out. But you end up with all these houses. One doesn't want to use the word shacks because they are homes. But they are all attached to one another, all in very close proximity to one another.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm sure they're not built with kind of building regulations, building codes, and all of those kind of things, which is for
it's
safety.
just add-ons. So the recent fire, the formal house, which was on one piece of land, and close to it were all these informal houses. I don't know if they were on the same piece of land or attached to another house, but the formal house will be repaired and paid for because it was a government house. They will get national funding to get the formal house built again, or get building materials at least. So that will be sorted. So that's a family home, which is wonderful news. That will get sorted. But the other houses, because they were informal, they won't get that same. They won't get replaced on by government funding.
So now that's interesting, because I've heard that, and this is very, very conjecture, and I think there's a string of evil almost through the discussion line of it, that there will be some people who burn their own shacks down because new, better ones will be given to them.
Yeah, that is a story that has been put out there. It would be terrible if that were true. And we can't
say for sure, right?
We can't say for sure. And
how do you distinguish? Even if that was the case, which I think because we see so many people, all of their possessions, it's not just their homes, it's everything that they own. I mean, a place to stay, and a place that we're humans. We need these homes. And we wouldn't be able to distinguish between that.
So no. And it's. I mean, there is always a good flood of assistance coming from the whole community, which is wonderful. But that doesn't give the people a place to stay. It's not like people come the next day and rebuild a house.
Yes. There's
a lot of stuff that has to happen. So they do have to go out there and find somewhere else to stay in the meantime. In the bigger fires, the community hall has been opened.
So
but you can imagine sharing a community hall with 10 other families
not what
with
you
kids,
want.
and it's definitely not what you want. So there has been talk of that, but I would be very. I can't imagine that anyone would really want to do that.
Real people going through these real difficulties.
And the last thing you want to suggest to someone who's going through that is,
my goodness,
did you burn that down?
You might just deserve a punch in the throat.
Yes, no, absolutely. And there are so many ways these fires can start. There's a lot of young people staying in their houses, staying at the home while their parents have to work. There's a lot of instances where youngish kids in their tweens, that's before your teens, I think it is.
That's it.
Are looking after much younger kids while their parents are at work. Perhaps cooking a meal for them and whatever. So there is a whole, and on an open flame, perhaps, or candles. Candles are used. Gas stoves are used.
And especially during winter, where it's very closed off. So it is. There's it's really a deeply embedded issue that goes so far beyond just kind of the housing.
Yeah.
We've got family structures, we've got work situations, we've got kids and schooling and education and all of these kind of tied in. So a lot of tragedies really do kind of come about from all of this.
Yes,
one of our other major tragedies that happened when I can't remember the date now. It wasn't too long ago, a week or two ago.
A week ago last Sunday.
There we go. A week ago last Sunday, with the drownings of 3 people in the lagoon.
Yeah, that was a very, very sad story that we had to report on. It's part of our job. We can't only report good news. We have to report the bad news as well, which is not an easy thing to do. It seems 2 sisters and one of their boyfriends were tragically drowned. They were in the lagoon. None of them swimmers. Which is makes it even more tragic that they were unable to save themselves.
That's it, get out of this.
Nobody really knows what happens. There is a lot of conjecture.
And I think that's the main thing, kind of that we're wanting to figure out is, how do we get, who's the most reliable in this? How do we get some reliable information? Because I've heard, a million stories, and I'm not even going to mention them because it's not worthwhile just throwing it in as, oh, maybe it was this, or maybe it was this. That current is intense. There are a bajillion things that can go wrong. And any of us, who do swim in the sea or in the lagoon, know that things can go wrong so quickly. So how do we get the right information for this? How did you guys do it, rather?
As a newspaper, with instances like this, and I'm glad you brought this up, I've really got to take my hat off to the NSRI for the amazing work they do in rescuing. They also run the lifeguards in Sedgefield and in the Garden Route. But not only for the amazing work that all the volunteers do in rescuing, but their integrity in reporting. In getting the right information out there is really amazing. They make sure of their facts. They do understand the importance of getting the information out there. Not only so that people can see what the NSRI do, because they do so much, and it can and quite often it's a terrible season. A season, I'm talking about like a day. That last weekend, just the Wilderness NSRI, there was drownings right up the coast.
Oh, goodness.
There were rescues. They got to the stage where they were just finishing one rescue and had to do another on the same beach. They really were putting the work out there. Being kept so busy, but also the fact that they report on the incidents with integrity. They are very, very, what's the word I'm looking for? They're very conscious about keeping the family involved, dealing with the families. Obviously, in many occasions, the families are either on the scene or rush to the scene when a tragedy or a near miss or whatever occurs, or they'll contact the NSRI to say what happened. Because the NSRI they save so many lives, but obviously in the nature of what they do, there are going to be times when they can't save a life. Despite all
absolutely,
the efforts. So they're very good from our point of view as a newspaper. We're very reliant on them for information that isn't conjecture. We're very reliant upon them to be sensitive about not releasing. It's very easy to release names, and then a family member who hasn't heard about the accident will suddenly see it on social media, or suddenly see it. They'll get a call from someone saying, "I'm so sorry to hear about your nephew."
Oh, goodness gracious! And then that's how you hear.
Heartbreaking.
No, it is absolutely.
So they're very, very conscious of that. We have to be as a newspaper as well, but we have to get the information from somewhere.
Exactly.
they're very careful about the information they release.
Okay.
It is accurate and it does have integrity.
So a very good source then, and I think one of the
definitely
key
a
ones
very
that we look
good
at
source.
when you are having discussions and someone is maybe from the NSRI or who was on the scene. I mean, that's going to be your most reliable, the ones who are filling out, who are doing all of this.
Yes,
absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
So when it does come to sources and figuring out, photographic proof is always the best. Well, one of the best, maybe less and less now in the days of AI. But seeing, is it Erwin Kick and his ridiculously sized fish on the back page of The Edge. I couldn't believe it. Maybe it is an AI image. Do you guys use AI images?
No, we don't. No, never.
Oh, brilliant. Did he weigh this fish?
No, I don't think he did.
I don't think so either. Goodness,
I
probably as heavy as me.
To refresh my, I did edit that article. Well, I wrote that article from information he sent me. He sent me kind of point form.
Yeah.
He was quite surprised because he wasn't fishing for. It's a leervis.
Leervis, not a garrick. Okay, leervis.
Yeah, there probably is an English term. I don't know.
Yeah.
But anyway, he was fishing, and I'm not a fisherman. So I thought you just threw a rod out there with a worm. Well, a line out there with a worm on. But different bait catches different fish.
I don't think there is more to it, really.
He was fishing for. I think he was fishing for grunter. Not sure, or something.
Yeah.
And the leervis, which is a game fish, normally, apparently, so he told me, normally goes for live bait.
Oh, okay.
So you basically, it sounds gross, but you attach you catch a small fish and you attach it to your line.
Yep.
Very gently, I'm sure.
Yes.
With lots of
with a hook, a gentle.
And then you cast it out, and that fish thinks, "Wow, I'm free!" And
brilliant.
Off it goes until a leervis or something like that grabs it. But this he caught it on different sort of bait.
Yes, it's an unexpected one.
The name of the bait is in the paper, but I can't remember it offhand. Yeah, but having said that, and his picture is 100% accurate. But I'm gonna put a thing out there now because I have seen a friend of mine caught a fish once.
Yeah.
And he sent me a photograph, and I was going, wow, that's a huge fish. Then I realized that he was holding it with two fingers at arm's length towards the camera. So even though it basically covered his body in the picture, it actually was no more than about 20 centimeters long.
There you go. So there are some great fishing tips as well.
Yes.
Use the wrong bait or worms and hold the fish really up close to the camera when taking.
And then you got a record-breaking fish there.
Awesome, Bubba. Cool. Thanks so much for that. That's been really, really interesting. A lot of things to discuss, a lot of things to think about. Thanks so much for taking the time and looking forward to all the other things we're going to be able to discuss.
That'll be wonderful. Thank you. It's been really cool. Actually, a lot easier than I thought it would.
Hey, nice.
Yeah. Cool.